Hello and welcome to Southeastern 16, presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Jay Greeson. Today, we are going to go over SEC football games of the weekend, some national games of significance. Hey, everything is of significance now because of the playoff teams, even games outside the league. We're going to go over games in this order: Ole Miss at Georgia, Tennessee at Alabama, LSU at Vanderbilt, Missouri at Auburn, Texas A&M at Arkansas, Oklahoma at South Carolina, Texas at Kentucky, and then Mississippi State at Florida. And we're also going to touch on about 9 or 10 games of national significance outside the SEC, which could impact the playoff. Before we jump into all that, we remind you we are brought to you by our friends at Game Time Sidekicks, which makes officially licensed stainless steel drinkware. You can see my morning water tumbler. All SEC schools, 350 other universities, everything from stainless steel sippy cups, tumblers, 40-ounce bottles, and shaker cups. SE16 gets you 20% off your entire order at GameTimeSidekicks.com. We're also brought to you by the HOF app. Smart bettors rely on data. HOF hands you powerful analytics at your fingertips to tilt the odds in your favor, improve your chances of winning using historical data, matchup grades, trends, and player performance insights. HOF was created by Ivy League sports geeks to let everyday fans bet smarter. For a limited time only, our listeners can get a 7-day free trial, and they also get 50% off their first month using the code SE16 at checkout. Just download the HOF app. You can get that on iOS or Android. Enter code SE16, and you are all set. Jay Greeson,
my friend,
today on vacation. Thank you for joining us. How are the? I think you're at the beach, are you not?
I am. We're in St. Simons.
Yeah. Well, hey, really happy you're with me. Thank you for taking time out of your vacation schedule. Before we dive into the show, what stands out to you about this week in the SEC? And even nationally, too, if you choose to go there.
I got a handful. One, I'm curious about how big of an offer did the Ivy League geeks from HOF make to Chris Lee? Because it feels like y'all are a simpatico. I mean, that would be
Right.
That would be like that'd be like you going to Silicon Valley if you were Zuckerberg. I mean, it's just how it's supposed to be. But we're glad to have you. We're glad to have so many devoted and loyal folks who were overwhelming in their thoughts and prayers for you over the last month. But in the college football realm, I think the two biggest stories that speak to me in the macro is we're at the halfway point, and the playoff picture has never been bigger, and it's testament in the micro of what we do and who we cover. It's a historic weekend that there are 8 SEC on SEC games, and yeah, that's a mathematical equation because it's the first full 16-team league, but the conversation of those 8 games, 7 of them have playoff implications. And that's staggering if you take a step back about the depth of the realm of, I'm not going to say depth because I don't think the bottom 4 are maybe getting left behind, but the top 10, I mean, there are 10 SEC teams ranked, for Pete's sakes, in the AP top 25. The other storyline is the spinning coaching carousel that is picking up speed now that James Franklin has been handed a pink slip, and everybody has to pop their eyes because James Franklin over the last 3 years is 4th among all coaches across college football in wins. And he's only behind Kirby, Kalen, and Ryan Day. So if you're going to fire that, how can Florida fans, how can Auburn fans, because I'll give you 2 mind-blowing stats. If Auburn and Hugh Freeze lose Saturday, he's got the worst winning percentage of any sitting Auburn coach that's a non-interim since 1950. Secondly, Billy Napier's got to win 17 games in a row to get to the same level of success that Ron Zook had. Try to get your mind around that.
Yeah, that got brought up earlier in the week on, I think, one of the shows here. Now, I would say that Billy Napier probably played a tougher schedule, but still, I don't think that that's the place where Florida fans are dwelling right now. That program should be doing better than it is. The coaching carousel stuff fascinates me. Are you surprised that this many changes are being made at or before the halfway point? I mean, because you've got now resources tied up with players, and some of the conventional wisdom was now that money has to be spent other places, you might be stingy with this kind of matter. But like, it's almost like there's a bottomless pit of money that is willing to go into this sport.
Well, that's without question. I mean, we've known that before. It's just magnified now because so many of these power schools are complaining about having to pay the players. Now they're just going to get more money to buy out the coaches. And I think the narrative about the coaching carousel is multifaceted. One, a big part of all these guys getting fired right now is how few coaching changes we had last year, including 0 in the SEC. Two, I think the desire to avoid mediocrity is pushing people to a place that, because you cannot allow your fan base to get apathetic. Kentucky's allowed Mark Stoops to stay there to a point that they're now apathetic, and I don't know if you can correct that. I used a phrase earlier about and this is weeks ago, if not months ago, you cannot succeed in this league if you're going to continually to try to run on the treadmill of mediocrity. And so you've got to have an outraged fan base, or you've got to have an engaged fan base. Because if everybody's indifferent, you're cooked. The second thing is, I think a lot of these ADs realize you can't let Billy Napier 2024 happen. So if you've made up your mind, pull the trigger, because if you let this guy go on a 2 or 3 or 4 game winning streak because his current players, whatever else, if you know this is not your guy, then you got to treat it like a rotten tooth, and it's got to be pulled.
I have a question for you. In a day and age where the NCAA is running ads about how the system is ruining college sports, the finances indirectly, especially the other sports, does it not undermine the NCAA's argument every time you fire a coach and write, 8-figure buyout checks?
Oh, it completely does. And look, I took about 6 majors in my 7 years at Auburn because I like to dabble. And so for a short time, I was an accounting major. And the one term I learned from that was opportunity costs. And the opportunity costs of paying for it now, as opposed to continually paying for it in increments in terms of decreasing product value and viability, is overwhelmingly bad for your business model. So this is, and look, man, it's also about self-survival. Because if you're an AD, the way to deflect heat on your office, you've got to make a change in football. Now, there are some guys who have now made multiple, looking at you, Scott Strickland, who have made multiple bad hires in football. But you're one home run away from creating the greatest galvanization since Teflon. So this is not only an opportunity to be better, but it's also an opportunity to save jobs by losing jobs. Now, I will say this. I think this crescendo is going to change moving forward, because I think there's a real narrative and a talking point about, if you're an athletic program, do you clear the deck and pay, what was the number on the Franklin buyout? $50 million?
It was anywhere between 48 and 56, depending on where you looked. And look, that is, I think a lot of that gets offset once he gets another job, which his contract requires him to look for, which begs a couple of questions, but I'll let you continue your train of thought before I go there.
Well, it's going to point teams in athletic leadership into the conversation of, do we want to pay that, or do we want to take $25 million each of the 2 years, and instead of spending $75 million to reset our X's and O's, let's spend $50 million to go get more Jimmys and Joes?
Here's the thing I was going to ask you, and you may know how this works more than I do. I'm looking up the Franklin contract. Okay, $8.5 million a year. So the buyout is offset if he goes and gets another job, which he's required to do. So let's just say this, and I'm thinking there's got to be a provision in there, but maybe you would know the answer better than I did. Let's say that Florida or Arkansas or somebody decides we're going to hire James Franklin. And James Franklin says, you know what, I'm going to stick it to Penn State for what it did to me. Pay me $1 a year.
You're not going to take $1 a year.
Well, no, but here's the thing. The contract, the annual amount, if I've got this right, is $8.5 million. So if a school is willing to pay you more than $8.5 million, you're leaving money on the table. But if the number is 8.5 and somebody's not going to pay you more than that, is there anything to prevent a coach from saying, hey, pay me $1 at my new stop and let's let Penn State fuel the freight for the rest of it? I'm guessing there is, but that was an interesting topic of conversation I had.
Trey is right. It has to be a reasonable wage. Now,
okay,
I can give you an example. Butch Jones, he didn't deserve a head coaching job at the time, but he took an analyst job in the coaching baptismal waters that was going and getting on Nick Saban's staff. And he was probably making tens of thousands of dollars to go get everybody coffee in the coaches meeting. But
yeah.
So he was getting big money from Tennessee. If Franklin does take a head coaching job, and there will be many suitors. Now, I think this tangent is important, and I've got zero sources in Happy Valley. So I'm not reporting anything, but I am raising a talking point because that's what we do. To pull the trigger that quickly on a guy who's had that much success, it's not going to shock me if there's another cleat that drops out of that locker room about something nefarious.
Yeah,
so,
I wondered that too.
So, I mean, who knows? The other part is I'm curious about the language of what if ESPN comes calling, because he's a charismatic dude and I think would be good in a TV environment. So, but Trey is 100% right in the conversation of it's got to be a reasonable wage, and no agent is going to take $1. The agent doesn't get a cut of the buyout, if I understand contractual law correctly. But the conversation, look, if I'm UCLA, I hire Franklin tomorrow to finish out the year.
Yeah. Did you see Todd McShay's tweet about James Franklin, by the way? He went off on him.
No.
Yeah, it was not pretty, and I don't think it was unfair either. Ask me how I know. But so the reasonable salary is the standard. I'm just curious what that is. And like, if you're James Franklin, could you argue, hey, you didn't think I was good enough to coach your football team? You didn't think I was worth $8.5 million a year? How can you sue me if you think I'm a bum of a coach? I mean, I'm sure it's nuanced in there, but that whole topic, if a coach wanted to go do that, kind of fascinates me. The other thing somebody brought this up in a conversation I had with a buddy of mine yesterday, who's an on-air talk show host in Jackson, Tennessee. But he goes by the name Seabass, good friend of mine. We were talking yesterday off air, and he mentioned the topic of what if James Franklin went to Florida next week? They get rid of Billy Napier and just bring him in now, which would be interesting on a number of fronts. But I had never thought of that.
I mean, I'm all for it. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of these guys are looking to pull the trigger, because the elite candidates are, and James Franklin's currently available, but the elite candidates are about to become even more in demand. And dear Lord, the Jimmy Sextons of the world, I mean, they're peeling off hundos at the bar, drinks for everybody, because they know this is going to be a lucrative offseason.
What if that happened and we got 7-6 or 7-5 Florida and 7-5 Penn State in the Gator Bowl with James Franklin coaching Florida?
Well, Florida's got a whole lot of heavy lifting to do to get to 7-5.
Yeah, I mean, look, these are wild ifs though, but like this is the world we're in where I'm just kind of like wondering what are the wild things that are going to happen next. But anyway, that's kind of where we are. All right, let's get into the games because I think that's why people are here. I've labeled these games. There's 8 SEC games, and shout out to Mike Bratton. I don't know if he was the first one to figure it out, but he said this is the first time you've seen 8 SEC games in a week in the history of the conference. So here we go. All SEC on SEC this week. Again, we will get to some national games later. I have tiered these in 3 tiers. First one is games with massive playoff implications for both teams. And we'll go in order. Ole Miss at Georgia, Tennessee at Alabama, LSU at Vanderbilt. Let's start with Ole Miss at Georgia, Jay.
I love the stat I saw today. If Ole Miss pulls this off, this will be Lane Kiffin's first road win over an SEC-ranked opponent in his career.
Wow.
Now, he did collect a road win at then 24-ranked Tulane, but it's going to be – and I also love this stat because Kirby and company have started unbelievably slow all season, to the point that a Georgia friend of mine texted me, I heard Ole Miss kicks off at 3:30 and Georgia's going to kick off like 4:15. So I think Georgia's the more complete football team. I think Georgia at home. I worry about the spot after the emotional expenditure of what Georgia had to do in Athens last week. Is that a springboard or is that an anchor?
What is the stat on Georgia? Like they have trailed like their last 8 SEC games at halftime or something like that. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It was 10-3 at halftime Saturday night in Auburn, and it should have been 17-0. But I mean, look, man, if this is a game in the betting realm, if Georgia starts fast, this could get one-sided. LSU has a good win against – or Ole Miss has a good win against LSU. Georgia has a couple of road wins that have a little merit. If we're talking picks, we're talking expectations, I think Georgia's a better football team. And I think this is the kind of spot Kirby Smart embraces. So we're looking at a place, even coming off of the opportunity to galvanize your kids because you played really badly against Washington State. I think this is a difficult spot for Lane Kiffin and company. And I'll put this to you because I'm wondering about the whole second serve mentality of Georgia spent its mulligan. Ole Miss still has one. And I'm not saying anybody within the program's even talking about that, but it's human nature to understand that. And Ole Miss has an easier schedule coming home than Georgia does. So maybe they're not talking about it in Oxford, but I damn sure bet you Kirby Smart's talking about it in Athens.
Yeah, that is exactly where I was going to go. I think if Ole Miss wins this one, you could just about write Ole Miss into the playoff and pin. You never know, but I think Ole Miss just needs to get one of the next 2 on the road. Georgia or Oklahoma. Oklahoma looking a lot more doable potentially based on last week, and we'll see how that looks Saturday. Maybe we have a different opinion depending on how John Mateer does or does not look. Now, the thing about Georgia, though, Jay, the schedule ahead, okay, Florida, that's a rivalry game. You never know where Florida is going to be at that point. That's in Jacksonville, obviously, so it's not a road game. It's 50-50 crowd, I would think. Mississippi State on the road, that's not going to be easy, but it should be doable based on talent. You got Texas, but that's in Athens. You got Charlotte, that's a walkover. And then you got Georgia Tech, that's a neutral game. The one thing about Georgia, because you are correct, I think the schedule does get tougher, but Georgia does not have to play a true road environment except for Mississippi State, it appears, after this one.
But did you see the stat that like the top 3 Big Ten schools, Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana, play 0 ranked opponents coming in? This has been the conversation we've had before about, look, SEC teams have to believe to be comfortable come Selection Sunday, you got to get to 10. Georgia loses this one, and then you really got to feel comfortable, you got to run the table, and then Texas and Athens is an elimination game. Now, we've got some SEC teams that potentially could get in with 9 wins. I'm not certain Ole Miss is one of them because the schedule is not – I mean, look, the SEC is going to spin it that every 9-3 team deserves to get in because that's what they do. But to be fully comfortable, this is more of a must-win for Georgia than it is the Rebels.
Yeah, if you're Ole Miss and you're 9-3, the wins that you can brag about, LSU at home, and then after that,
and we don't know how that's going to age.
Right. I mean, it does get dicey. I do think Ole Miss has got to go 10-2 to get in, but I kind of like Ole Miss's chances, even with a loss in this one. All right, we're going to get to, unless you've got anything else on Ole Miss, Georgia. Are we ready for Tennessee, Alabama?
I'm ready.
All right, before we go there, reminder, we are brought to you by Yearly Company, which is a Nashville-based fine jewelry brand that is built on tradition and design for meaning. Each piece is handcrafted from solid 14-karat gold and natural gemstones, made to measure for a perfect fit, backed by a lifetime guarantee. Because every Yearly Company bangle is custom-sized, knowing your size is the most important first step before ordering. That is where our sizing kit comes in. It is the perfect place to start, especially for husbands who want to have sizes ready now. So shopping closer to the holidays is effortless. Code SE16KIT will take 100% off the sizing kit at checkout. Go ahead and get yourself ready for Christmas for your wife. Don't delay and help out those who help the show by ordering at Yearly Company. All right, also brought to you by Rockform, which makes the world's strongest magnetic phone case. Not only is it strong, it is durable. It offers you extreme protection. I have dropped my phone, and it has come up no worse to wear because of Rockform's case. Super strong magnets, rock lock secure mounting. This is the busiest time of the year with the new iPhone release, so use SEC25 to take 25% off your entire order at rockform.com. I really recommend the vent clip for your phone. It is very reasonably priced, and it is a game changer for you while you fiddle or try to put your phone somewhere in the car. So recommend that highly. Also brought to you by Hovey Dry Goods, and I don't have my favorite Titans hat with me, but boy, it is beautiful. My team stinks, but my team's hats do not. Look no further than Hovey hats for high-quality headwear with a great fit and unique designs. Bad Beat, BADBEAT, for 15% off your entire order at HoveyDryGoods.com. All right, Jay Greeson, next up, we've got Tennessee going to Alabama. Let's get your thoughts on this one.
Well, college football is better when the third Saturday in October is passionate. That's my first thought. Secondly, 2 one-loss teams, both with playoff aspirations, add to the stakes. Thirdly, I think both of these teams have a whole lot of likable characteristics, but I think the defensive injuries, especially in the Tennessee secondary, will be troublesome, especially if Banks continues. I think he's got to mix in a little more zone, to be quite honest. They've played a lot of man-to-man. They've given up a bunch of yardage and they've had success creating turnovers, but one of the myriad of things that Ty Simpson has done exceedingly well, protecting the football, is chief among them. So if you're going to try to cover that deep wide receiver room with Horton, Bernard, and Ryan Williams, man-to-man, Ty Simpson's going to have a day. And this line at 7.5 is tasty, but the over 58.5 is even more tasty because I see this being a lot of points. And I know Sam put up there, Ty Simpson was a kid that was playing football through high school and became a 5-star quarterback, the son of the UT Martin coach in the mid-state, and he had zero intention of going to Tennessee and then picked Alabama, and he's waited his turn. And look, man, if we had a vote right here at the midway point or even beyond the midway point, Ty Simpson's your SEC Player of the Year. Yeah. And I don't even know if it's all that close. This is a real tough spot for Tennessee with their best corner, maybe the best corner in college football in McCoy, still not cleared, and the in-season injuries of Colton Hood. Are they going to be able to – they want to make this a track meet. Are they going to be able to keep up in a track meet?
So you said the over-under is 58.5?
Yes.
That's weird because I'm leaning the other way, and I'll tell you why. Alabama can slow the game down. Alabama's out first downing everybody right now, and their pass defense right now is very, very good.
Well, and their pass defense may be very good. Have they seen an offense like this one yet?
No, but they did grind Vanderbilt to a screeching halt a couple of weeks ago.
Well, they forced Prabula into being a running dude, and they may have success against Braswell, but Tennessee's deeper because they had great success against Coleman last week in Columbia. But I think there was some look-ahead factor that kept Arkansas closer to Tennessee in the big picture of things. Look, Josh Heupel knows he's been galvanized and revered in Knoxville because of the success he's had against the Crimson. And he knows the value of this game in the moment and in the narrative. So, no, I expect Tennessee to start fast. I really think Alabama's going to win the football game because with the exception of maybe Indiana, nobody's played better over the last month than Alabama.
Yeah, I agree. I just, it's funny how people see this game differently. Alabama's also plus 10 in turnovers. And I know what Tennessee's done. And maybe the Georgia games, the warning I'm not heeding because of what they got 41 in that one, went to OT, went on the road to Mississippi State, got a bunch there. But, I mean, 2 of those were defensive scores too. I know there's been – well, I mean, I don't know if this is fair. There's been talk about how Heupel's offenses, like they run up numbers against the bigger teams and have trouble against the elite defenses, which most teams do. But then I'm thinking, well, hey, they had no issues scoring points on Alabama many of the last few times they played. So maybe you're the one right and I'm the one wrong. My gut instinct is I think the under is what hits here.
And we'll see and we'll review it on Monday when I get back into Chattanooga proper. But I don't know. Man, Alabama's so good on 3rd and 4th down, and that's a credit to Simpson. So I really think Tennessee's going to have a tough time getting off the field, but I think Heupel is going to lean on what he knows best, and that's going to be a fast script, and it's going to be a whole lot of shot plays, especially early, and especially in an effort to get that crowd, because nighttime in T-Town for a game of this magnitude, both in terms of playoff possibilities and passion of a rivalry, that joint's going to be hopping.
No doubt. I guess this kind of says what I'm getting at. The most plays another team has run against Alabama this year was 63. That was Florida State. Since then, the high watermark for plays that anybody has run has been 56. They've been between 50 and 56 every game. And you're like, well, I know it's Tennessee. That's a different animal. It is. But Missouri was averaging 80 plays a game against Alabama, and that was in Missouri's yard, and ran 56 a week ago. So anyway, I think we've talked this one to death. Let's go to the next one. LSU at Vanderbilt. Who would have circled this as a game Vanderbilt would have been favored in before the season? But that's where we are.
You know, the last time you probably do. Last time Vandy was favored over LSU.
I think it was in the 1940s.
48.
Yeah. Here's an even bigger one for you, because like sometimes teams go long gaps without playing. That's LSU and Vanderbilt, not teams that play constantly. I think I heard this. I think the last time Vanderbilt was favored in an SEC game, I think it's been 51 games. And here it is, not only favored, but favored against a team that's ranked 10th in the AP poll.
Here's a sneaky one for you. We're going to talk a bunch about who's in the hottest seat come Sunday at lunch, Hugh Freeze or Billy Napier. Brian Kelly, head on a swivel, brother, if you go to Nashville and lose this one. Because a team with super high expectations with Garrett Nussmeier coming back has limped along. And the season opening win at Clemson, and Brandon, if you ever come back and give me your address, I will send you our Game Time Sidekick Cup. I've already ordered it. But that one's now not a resume building win either. And there's got to be a lot of LSU fans looking up and going, and not looking necessarily at what has happened, because Vandy's had a tremendous year, but there's just still the preconception, and it's wrong about what are we doing being an underdog to Vandy. And because the stat you threw out, if it's been 51 games, that's pushing 6+ years.
My thought is, like, if LSU comes and loses this game, it's a loss on the road to a ranked team. And LSU at 2 losses is still alive for the playoff, but that's being rational. And fans usually aren't rational about these things.
True or false on a Thursday? The loser of this game is eliminated from playoff contention.
Most likely. Winner is, well, especially if it's LSU. Winner is in the fringe in winner's bubble team for the playoff if you stop the season after Saturday, especially if it's LSU.
I really think if we're talking angles of expectation, I think LSU defensively will be in a place to frustrate Vandy. But look, on our Bets and Ball Games podcast that I do with Brian Edwards on this platform, and it'll drop this afternoon, we've got 2 rules, man. We've got 2 rules. Rule 1, never lay more than 40 points. It's just it's banging your head against the wall. 2, you don't bet against Diego Pavia.
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt's the team I trust to win. Home field is no longer a disadvantage for them. We'll see what it looks like. LSU may have bought season tickets before the season and outdraw Vanderbilt. I don't think that'll happen, but we'll see. I think the other thing, I just, when in doubt, a lot of times where I go is whose quarterback do I trust? And you just alluded to that. And the other one is, like, if we're in overtime and you trust one offense to score more than another, I think the answer right now is Vanderbilt.
Can I
I mean,
throw
it
one more in there?
has to be.
Can I throw
But
one more
LSU's
in there?
sure.
And because I agree with both of those, especially in a close game, whose head coach do you trust more? And I assuredly say I trust Clark Lee a hell of a lot more than I trust Brian Kelly. And I think he's going to get more out of his dudes than Brian Kelly has consistently got out of his dudes at LSU.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. I don't know that that's entirely fair because Brian Kelly has gotten a lot of hardware in his time, right? So there's that. I think sometimes, well, and look at Penn State, you tend to crap on a career accomplishments when right now it's not going well and let that color everything. I mean, Brian Kelly's a guy that's been in the playoff and done some big stuff. So I don't know if that's fair, but it does at the same time feel like right now Clark Lee has done a better coaching job than Brian Kelly has with this team.
Oh.
So anyway, yeah, I think this one, who do you think is better? LSU's defense or Vanderbilt's offense? Because maybe that's where we settle.
I think LSU has, and this is a testament back to the coaching. I think Clark Lee is very much especially in this game, of fulfilling the Bum Phillips prophecy of he beat yours with his and his with yours. So, I mean, if we're talking about future NFL dudes, I don't even think our handful of ardent, button-busting, super proud Vandy guys would not trade, with the possible exception of our boy Diego Pavia. If you got to trade rosters with LSU, you would.
Yeah.
They got more dudes. So, look, I think Vandy is in the top 2 or 3 in terms of guts in this league. Forget stars, forget whatever else. He's galvanized a belief of redirecting a program that those kids have bought into, and they bought into it last year in whenever they put a camera of any given Saturday in the Vandy locker room. I mean, and that job. Now, make the argument all you want of building something from nothing may not be is unbelievably admirable, but it may be harder to do what Saban did and keeping everything atop the mountain. But maybe Brian Kelly hadn't been able to do that. But if back to your question, who's better? I think LSU's defense is slightly better than Vanderbilt's offense. But I think LSU's offensive struggles magnify that to a place. Look, I'm an Auburn graduate. I know offensive struggles can wear out an elite defense. So, look, they're going to need Diego Pavia to make 3 plays, and I'm not betting against Diego Pavia making 3+ plays.
You know what I think it might boil down to? Whose quarterback is healthier over the course of the game? Because right now, Diego Pavia is entering the game healthier. Also on a, 2 weeks off. So if he was banged up, which he didn't appear to be, that's going to help. Nussmeier struggled with physical stuff all year and took a couple of shots to the legs last week that may have added to that, which I don't think that was an issue coming in. I think his issue was more upper body. I mean, that may be really what this whole game hinges on. Look, if Harold Perkins gets a blindside hit on Pavia early in the game and knocks him silly, then the whole game flips too. So there's that.
Well, completely agree. But I also think, and I think Garrett Nussmeier is a dinosaur. I don't think you're going to be able to win at this level, at least in the modern version, without a quarterback who can extend plays or at least give you a threat of running the football. And Garrett Nussmeier, whether that's skill set or his medical chart, currently does not give LSU that dimension, which means they become, instead of 3-dimensional, they're just now 2-dimensional, and that's easier to defend with the athletes the SEC presents defensively.
Yeah, Clark Lee said something this week about Nussmeier was clocked at 20 miles an hour. I don't know when
I
that
would
would have
think he would
been.
throw harder than that.
you would think you bring Paul Skeens in to teach him a bit, but I didn't know that. I think there's capability there, right, when he's healthy, but it's not part of what they do with him, and I mean that may not matter right now because he just doesn't seem to be well. But anyway, I think that one's interesting because I could see that one going different ways for a lot of reasons. All right, next year games with potential playoff impact for one team. Missouri at Auburn. Let's start here. You're on vacation. Did you see the Missouri press conference clip of when I cannot think, I don't know if it's Zion Young or one of the defenders asked about what kind of threat Jackson Arnold presented, and he just kind of chuckled or smiled. I thought that was an interesting way to do a press conference. And then you've got the mess at Auburn with Damari Austin getting kicked off the team and his teammates sticking up for him. You got last week. I mean, I think this is a game. Auburn started out at the favorite. I believe Missouri is the favorite now at FanDuel, if I'm correct.
They are 1.5, 2 points. It's swapped 3 or 4 points in the course of the week. We just had a chat. Auburn beats Mizzou to save Hugh Freeze's job for one more year. I don't know.
Takes
even
more than that, I think.
I don't even know if that does it. It's a night game. Crazy things happen. Auburn's lost to 3 top 15 SEC teams without Gunnar Stockton's late TD run. All of them right there by 1 score, and they were competitive. But look, that's the glass half full stuff. The glass half empty. You want a stat that'll blow your hair back? Jackson Arnold is last in efficiency in the SEC in passing, is my understanding. That stat does not blow your hair back because that passing game is atrocious. But I believe he's also the only SEC starting quarterback without an interception this year. And we know the value of interception in passer ratings and efficiency. So that just screams that everything's within 2 or 3 yards of the line of scrimmage, or he's only throwing if dudes are wide open. And to constipate or limit an offense to that extreme makes it too hard to do so many other things. And Zion, who's his pants, is a beast. He played unbelievable against Alabama, and he's going to be an issue. Missouri is balanced. Missouri's good, man. I mean, it took Ty Simpson winning that game and Bo Prabula. I think the Auburn defense will do everything in its power to take away Ahmad Hardy. I think they're going to follow a similar script that Alabama did to put it in Bo Prabula's lap. But I also don't know if Missouri gets to 24, can Auburn get to 27? Because that doesn't seem real certain at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama got to 27. I don't think that Auburn's going to. Continue, then I've got something back at you.
Well, it is just an unbelievably frustrating time. Look, I think this goes one of 2 ways. It's either a very frustrating loss. It's either a frustrating loss for Auburn or a possible Texas A&M type of emotional narrow win, or this could be the Waterloo that Notre Dame was in Fayetteville. And I don't know how you can trust anything in the betting realm of backing Hugh Freeze and Jackson Arnold right now. To take a testament in the betting numbers and analytics, Missouri averages 78 plays a game. Auburn wants to play fast. The over-under is 43.5.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got 2 really good defenses. You've also got this. I don't know if this is a one-game thing or something to be concerned about, because Bo Prabula, during his career, has been really good with accuracy and also been very good at not turning the ball over in terms of interceptions, at least. Last week, he's 16 for 28 for $162, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks, and really didn't look good. Again, you heard me rave about Alabama's secondary earlier, so I tend to say that had a lot to do with it. But is that a little bit of a yellow flag for this one? Because Auburn can defend a bit too, as you know.
I don't know. There are zero questions about Auburn's defense. I mean, even to the point that while his numbers have not been eye-popping, Mel Kiper dropped his big board earlier this week, and the top-ranked draftable prospect on his big board, and Kiper may not be the most accurate draft analyst, but he's certainly the most renowned. The top-ranked one was Keldrick Falk.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's drawing double teams and still making plays and allowing his teammates to get into the pocket and figure out pressures, but it still has not made a victorious difference in this 3-game SEC losing streak.
Yeah, I saw him top 5 somewhere else this week too, so I don't think Kiper's on an island there. Yeah, I just, it's hard for me to see Auburn winning this game. The fact that the spread is so close does make me wonder a bit, and Auburn's defense, as we said, is really good. But percent chance that Hugh Freeze coaches one more game after this one if Missouri wins?
I think it's pretty good in the sense that, I mean, John Cohen was asked about it earlier this week, and he did not sound super frustrated. If you thought about what I think, that's a different question. If you ask me what I would, if the over-under at FanDuel was Hugh Freeze coaching 1.5 games from this Thursday, October 16th at Auburn, I'm 100% taking the over. But I mean, they want it to work. And in truth, Auburn fans should want Hugh Freeze to try to figure out a way to get to 8-4 and continue. You don't want to be on the coach's mill every 2.5 years. And that seems to be where Auburn finds itself.
Yeah, Sam asked Auburn's next bye. It's November 15th. Between then, Auburn's got Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, first and last on the road there. All right, we'll move on to Texas A&M and Arkansas. I think this thing is a sneakily interesting game based on the way Arkansas played Tennessee last week. I mean, they're -3 in turnovers and still had a shot to win on the road at the end of the day.
Look, man, unless Petrino gave them the win one for the Gipper, or we didn't have any idea how much Sam Pittman had lost the locker room, what you just said is 1,000% accurate. They were in position to win the game despite giving away 3 turnovers. To be fair, some of that's Tennessee's defensive design, and they're going to allow yards, allow plays because they want to create lost yardage plays and defensive turnovers. But I think this was also a factor of Tennessee in a look-ahead spot with Alabama this week. I actually like betting Texas A&M right here, especially if I can find it at 7, because I think Arkansas's defense is easily the most inferior aspect of this game. And I've come around to the point that I think Texas A&M has the most complete offense in this league.
Yeah, we're on the same page with that. And that's why I look at the over-under 61.5 and I say, hey, that feels one to me that where the over hits, because I don't know that Arkansas holds A&M under 40. And A&M is like, in some of these games that get away from the other team, you're seeing, well, I mean, I guess lately defense has gotten better. They've given up 10, 9, and 17 the last 3 weeks to Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida. But I think Arkansas is a team that when it shows up, which it did not against Notre Dame, is going to put points up against anybody. I just think, to me, this could be a game that at the end of it, we look at it and A&M has won it, 48 to 41.
Oh, it could be. I do like the over, but I also think even if we both agree that the over may be the smartest FanDuel play, I'm willing to give up a touchdown even on the road with an energized fan base, because the Hogs are going to show up after seeing the response that Arkansas delivered in Knoxville. If it's a high-scoring affair, I like my chances of Texas A&M getting 3 stops and Arkansas getting 1.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am. I just think, and when it comes to trusting the defenses to get a stop, I don't think that's a hard question. But I just see this one as being close, though. I really do. I think we're kind of in the same place on this one. Okay, next up we've got we got 2 more games in the potential playoff impact for one team. Oklahoma at South Carolina. I don't have any clue what to expect for this game.
Dangerous spot here for Oklahoma.
Yes, I agree.
They just played easily their worst game of the season in what before the season was their biggest game of the season. And now they've got to, as Shane Beamer rightly noted, all apologies to Temple playing in an NFL stadium. This is Mateer's first true on the road SEC game. And this is do or die for what was a season of high hopes for the Gamecocks. And Oklahoma's going to have to play well. And the defense got exposed a little bit last week. But I will say this. You look at this on paper, and this is magnified and can't be overstated, really. South Carolina's biggest trouble spot is its offensive line, and Oklahoma's biggest strength is its depth and skill set across the defensive front seven. That tells me, unless Lenora Sellers is the talk of every Sunday morning show on the SEC network, I just don't know how South Carolina, as long as Oklahoma protects the football and kicks and punts out of bounds, I don't know how South Carolina can get it done.
Well, see, this is why I'm confused on this game, because I buy into everything you just said, except the last thing. I don't see how Carolina can get it done. Okay, what was Oklahoma's last score it gave up last week? It gave up a 75-yard punt return touchdown to Texas. Who else can score touchdowns on special teams? South Carolina and Shane Beamer. John Mateer threw, 3 picks last week? Carolina's had multiple pick sixes and defensive turnovers this year. Like, who is the king of generating big plays to pull upsets in wild ways? It's Shane Beamer. Now, would I like this Carolina a little bit more if it were at night? Yeah, I would. But I don't know, man. Texas or Oklahoma's coming off a big loss in an emotional game. We still don't know what John Mateer is. Because I agree. Like, you put everything on the table, get everybody healthy. I think Oklahoma's defense is hands down the best unit on the field. But we just have seen weird stuff happen with Shane Beamer's teams too many times. And this is about when they start to warm up before they get flaming hot in November.
Well, and all of those are fair. But I will counter with a couple of things. One, as you galvanize your locker room, head coaches have to go to what they trust. And Brent Venables, we know his history and his pedigree. He has to realize, all the flowers everybody gave John Mateer through the first 5 weeks, this is a defensive-minded football team. Yeah, our running game is not great, so we can't grind it out and just lean on our defense, but we also can't put them in bad positions. So if he allows those things, and the conversation about doing it against Texas, I'll give you the punt return. But the turnovers that Texas created, Texas has got a much more athletic defense than South Carolina does. So, and some of that was game script about being desperate. So I would expect Brent Venables and Ben Arbuckle to come up with a very midline option. Hey, you know what? As long as every drive ends in a kick, be it a punt, a field goal, or a kickoff, Oklahoma wins a football game.
I never thought about this till now. Are Auburn and South Carolina's offenses not maybe the most similar in the league? No, they get there different places. South Carolina's gets there because its offensive line is awful. They both can run the ball a little bit, and Auburn gets there because Jackson Arnold just cannot get the ball out accurately downfield on time. But we saw this game once, if I'm right, and Oklahoma won that one. What was it, 16-10, and Auburn wasn't even in the ball game. Well, and this, yeah, okay, and this kind of makes my point. What got Auburn in the ball game late in that one? It was like a 70-yard fumble return that put.
You're thinking of Auburn, Texas.
Oh, are you sure?
Yes. Are you kidding? Am I sure? Yes. Okay. I've seen every minute of every Auburn football game.
Okay.
Auburn, Texas was 16-10. Oklahoma Auburn was 24-17, and Auburn scored to go up 17-16. And Mateer came down the field, scored a touchdown. They missed the two. Auburn gets the ball back, and then Jackson Arnold sacked in the end zone for a safety. That was anything but meaningless for a whole lot of people that had Auburn +6.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm glad you're more clear on this game because I'm just not. But anyway, I could see a lot of things happening here. Oklahoma really, I think, has to have this one to stay in playoff contention. So
especially with that schedule, because that's a team that they've got a whole lot of rocks to push uphill in the months of October and November.
Yeah, and look, maybe I'm overthinking it. It's not like South Carolina has showed up. Well, at Kentucky game, they were pretty good, but that might have had more to do with Kentucky. All right, I've talked that one out. Let's go to the last one in potential playoff impact for one team. Hey, I didn't think we're going to see her talking about Texas all of a sudden having a fighting shot at the playoff, but that's where we are, and I think this is close to a free spot on the bingo card as you get in the SEC, playing Kentucky anywhere right now.
I actually, if I had to pick one side I'm going to back, I don't see any way Kentucky, even at home. The crowd, they'll be kicking around Coca-Colas and talking about how good Mark Pope's team is going to be this basketball season. And I have a hard time seeing how Kentucky's going to have success offensively against that defense.
Yeah, I was looking at the over-under is what, 42.5?
Only bet that if you expect Texas to score 40.
Well, I was going to say, how many does Kentucky have to get for that to hit on the over?
Well, I can see
like
Texas
17, and I don't think they'll get there.
I think all of us can see Texas locking the hubs and just spinning out the fourth quarter of this thing. I would lay the 12 with Texas, and I just don't have a vision of how Kentucky's going to be able to sustain drives against the Texas defense. And are they going to be able to slow an Arch Manning who looked great last week?
Yeah. Well, also Kentucky has lost 8 straight SEC games at home. So there's that too. Yeah, I'd think that one is one of the least I think that's probably the least interesting game. I mean, I say least interesting. I mean, if Arch goes out and throws for 350, then we've got a different conversation because Kentucky's defense is not bad. But other than that, you're fishing for storylines, and I'm out of ideas there. All right, last game in the SEC. This is the fighting for bowl eligibility tier. Mississippi State at Florida in a game that obviously has some big ramifications for Billy Napier, perhaps if he were to lose it.
I love the stat that Mississippi State has cost 2 previous Florida coaches their job with wins. And I don't think Mississippi State finds a way to win. I would take the Mississippi State in the 10, but man, oh man, on a slate loaded with games, the only storyline in this one, you nailed it, is if Billy Napier loses, or even if they play badly, Florida's the next job open.
Path to bowl eligibility for Mississippi State. Gosh, you kind of really need this one. State is what, 4-2?
Yes.
Yeah, started off 4-0. Overtime loss to Tennessee is that may be the one that looms large. Okay, you got Texas at home. I don't think that's an automatic loss. Arkansas on the road. I mean, who knows? Let me see Arkansas this week. Georgia at home. Missouri on the road. Ole Miss in Starkville. Look, you don't ever count anybody out because these games are so close, but I feel like this is one that if State doesn't get, I would like the no on a bowl game for State. Not impossible, but that's where I'd lean.
I agree.
Okay. National games of significance. I think this is the biggest one in terms of playoff significance. Notre Dame is 4-2. It goes to Southern Cal, which is 5-1. Southern Cal's got some losable games ahead, in which I say losable, probably going to be favored to lose. I think if Notre Dame goes to Southern Cal and wins this one, Jay, I thought you were crazy last week when you said it, with the certainty that you said it. I've come around to your point of view. I think if Notre Dame runs the table at 10-2, it is getting in.
Well, I do too. And my certainty was more about, look, Notre Dame's the prettiest girl at the prom because everybody wants those TV eyeballs. So Notre Dame at 10-2 is going to get the tiebreaker because of how fancy their dress is compared to a whole lot of other schools who may have better resumes, because the rest of that Notre Dame schedule is implicitly doable. So, look, I think USC is kind of fraudulent. I mean, I think Marcus Freeman is going to have those kids ready to play, and I think this is Jeremiah Love's moment to let's giddy up, let's ride the kid.
Yeah, I mean the one meaningful game Southern Cal has played was at Illinois. I think that was an early start, and I think Southern Cal got ravaged by the flu or something like that, had a lot of key players out. But, hey, you don't win this one. You got two losses. You got a road game coming up in Nebraska, a home game with Northwestern, home game with Iowa, road game at Oregon, home game with UCLA. That feels to me like there's another loss or two in there, and I don't know that 10-2 Southern Cal gets in, and 9-3 Southern Cal is certainly not.
Well, 10-2 Southern Cal with that schedule, even if they lose, I don't know, man. There's going to be a whole lot of politicking at the end of this thing because Southern Cal's got a brand, and they're in the Big Ten. Now, the Big Ten, because of the number of options, has done an unbelievably great job of spreading out the power teams playing the power teams.
Yeah, I think they really have. Their schedules have been very favorable here in the playoff area, either coincidentally or not. This is a big one next. I think Utah at BYU. Utah is 5-1. Took a bad loss, I think, to Texas Tech, and I think that was in Utah. BYU is unbeaten, 6-0, 3-0. I think if BYU wins this one, pretty good shot to get in the playoff. If USC wins it, I don't think BYU's eliminated, probably, but Utah's chances certainly go up. I think that's a pretty good football team.
And with all the drama that's happened at BYU, I mean, I'm not certain. Does Lavelle Edwards still coach them?
I think so. I think so.
That guy could be in the Coach of the Year conversation. You lose your experienced starting quarterback because he was a college kid who had sex, which is not allowed at BYU, and he transfers to Tulane. You got to rebuild, and you win this one. Do they call this one the Holy War? Is that the one they call the Holy War?
They do.
This is an elimination game for both.
Yeah, BYU's got a game at Cincinnati, which I think has got one loss maybe, and is getting better. It's got a game at Texas Tech. Good luck to you there. And a game at Iowa State, which seems to be fading. So I don't know where that schedule goes. Utah, after this, also going to Cincinnati, I think. No, that one's at home. Goes to Baylor, that won't be easy. Kansas State, Utah's got a pretty good path. That Kansas, but I think I don't know who you're rooting for. If you're looking at the playoffs and trying to get in, I think you're probably looking for BYU to win this one, because I think the schedule ahead for Utah is going to be tougher than BYU.
Yes, especially in conference. I mean,
okay.
BYU's trying to scratch a lottery ticket on being the non-Power 4 team, right?
Yeah.
BYU.
Well, no. BYU is Big 12.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So it's get to that title game and do some damage there. Speaking of which, Georgia Tech is 6-0, got one of the lighter schedules of a Power 5 or Power 4 team. It goes to Duke, which I think is favored by a point or two, and has played pretty well. Got a couple of tough losses, but that's one. If you're a bubble playoff team or looking to get in the playoffs, period, you're wanting Duke to win, because Duke's already taken 2 losses. Georgia Tech unbeaten.
If Tech survives this one, there's a real chance they're 11-0 going to Atlanta to face Georgia.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that one. I think you're very much rooting for Duke to get this one. If you're an SEC team, Louisville at Miami feels like a slim chance for Louisville here, but that offense can put up some points.
Yeah, but they hadn't seen those two bookend defensive ends at Miami are bona fide.
Yeah, Ruben Bain's the other guy, a defensive lineman that's in that 1-1 conversation. Yeah, I like. Hey, it would be a shocker. I think I was listening to David Pollock last night, though. I think Louisville has scored 24 points or more in a more than you would think number of games in a row. Some of that may have been schedule-aided, but just going to throw that out there in case something weird happens. Texas Tech at Arizona State. I think Texas Tech is a phenomenal bet to make the playoff. Don't think they'll have trouble at Arizona State, which I don't think is the Arizona State we saw a year ago, but you never know.
I agree. And I agree with the assessment that if I'm making a short list of, and you'd have to pay the number, of course, teams I feel safest about making the playoff, it starts in Columbus, it then goes to Coral Gables, and then it darts to Lubbock.
Yeah, I've got 4 teams that I think are near locks. It's Indiana, Ohio State, Texas Tech, and Miami. Like, if any of those teams do not make the playoff at this point, I'm stunned.
I agree. And it's a combination of what they've done and what they have in front of them.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Okay, Washington at Michigan. Washington is 5-1, and I think unranked. I think Washington is the only 1-loss team in the Power 4 that's not ranked. This could put a dagger in Michigan's playoff hopes and really bolster Washington's. I'm not sure why people are sleeping on Washington, but that seems to be the case.
If you've got Washington's schedule in front of you, read who they've beaten.
Well, that may be the issue. Analytics love them. And some of those teams just ring up points there based on the schedule. Okay, they've played Colorado State, which is bad, UC Davis, which is a good FCS team, but what are we talking about? Washington State, which was awful. Ohio State took a double-digit loss there, and then beat Maryland, which is not bad, and also beat Rutgers, which was not awful. I think
they were down 20-0 to Maryland.
Yeah,
won the game 24-20. And look, man, that's the conversation that I know we had some fun with. I think it was Kurt Signetti talking about the depth of the 2 leagues. Other than the travel, would you rather go to Maryland, who's having a better year than Auburn? Or would you rather go to Saturday night in Lee County, Alabama? What's the tougher place to play?
Yeah, I get it. It's just that the travel times from coast to coast are just brutal. Like that, you probably know this. They've done the math on NFL teams having to travel long distances, and it's pretty glaring. Now, I don't know if that's changed in time. Is knowledge of that and health have gotten better, but didn't that used to be a big thing?
It is. It used to be a bigger thing because I think travel accommodations are better. And look, we've taken the word student out of student athlete to the point that they may leave on Wednesday. See, I think start times are more telling than travel, because if you're going from Seattle to Rutgers and you're playing a noon kick for Rutgers, that's 9 a.m. on your body clock.
Yeah.
And
that got that's gotten a couple of teams so far. It got Southern Cal, although again, illness had something to do with that. And I think was Penn State in one of those?
If UCLA was a night game, they were, because then they
that was an early start time in LA, like an 11 o'clock kickoff or something crazy, was it not?
Could have been.
Yeah, not that I feel sorry for them. Big Ten made its bed, and now it gets to lie in it. But okay, 2 more games. I think these are probably squint to see the importance, but there's a path. Penn State 3-3 at 4-2 Iowa. Iowa would, I think, need to run the table to win out. And like, what do we get from Penn State post James Franklin
and post Drew Aller?
Well, that too. Yeah, but Penn State with a shot to kind of put in Iowa's playoff hopes, which I think are probably slim anyway. And then Clemson and SMU. I think Clemson's probably done.
Yes.
Maybe there's a path for Clemson to get in with 2 losses in the ACC, but SMU is 4-2 and nowhere near the playoff conversation right now, but it is unbeaten in ACC play.
So they're going to have to win all their conference games and figure out a way to beat Miami.
Yeah, and I think there's a few more of these that I just didn't put in because you get so many of them. But I mean, that's where we are in college football. I think anybody that thought a 12-team playoff was going to make the SEC, all the regular seasons, less significant. I just don't think that's – I don't think they could have been more wrong, because we are talking about more games of importance every week that are, in some cases, toss-ups than we've ever talked about.
Maybe more games right now.
Right.
But in 2 weeks from now, it's fewer games, because there'll be a handful of teams that have galvanized for 6 spots.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see.
So the drama of early to mid-November to the end of the season has now been moved to Columbus Day.
Yeah, fair enough. Any parting thoughts, big things you're watching for the weekend, whatever's on your mind as we end the show?
Looking forward to doing a live stream with you Sunday, because I think there will be an SEC coach fired.
Over under on number?
The Vegas odds will set it at 0.5. You could get like plus 320 if you wanted to bet over 1.5. I don't think it'll be 2, because I think Florida will pull the trigger quickly. And then if you're Auburn, you don't want to go in the same news cycle.
You got a coach in mind, or just thinking that with all the
I think Billy Napier's last day is Saturday.
Because he loses?
No. I think if you are Florida and leadership and you've made your decision, you can't let Billy Napier 2025 do what Billy Napier did 2024. Because if he runs the table the last 5 to 6 weeks, or the locker room galvanizes around him and they go on a winning streak, then you're just stuck on the treadmill. Because then if you've made your decision, you've got to pull the tooth.
I get it, but why would you not do that last week after a loss and then do it after a win? Just didn't think it through? And now on second reflection, that's what we're going to do? Or because I don't see the logic in it otherwise.
Well, I don't see the logic in maybe they not to work.
Right. Well, and maybe they lose and then that settles it. But anyway, going to be an interesting week. And I think obviously the playoff impact, the coaching storylines. Yeah. I mean, this is college football's got to the point at this point of the season. You get up, you're locked in at 11, and your interest doesn't really wane until we get, about 11 at night and see some of these West Coast games in. I think it's a fascinating time to follow it.
Amen.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. If you are late to the show, We talked about all 8 SEC games. We covered about another 8 or 9 national games. So, hey, chances are we talked about your team at some point. If it's an SEC team, we absolutely did. So catch us at our channel. You'll be able to watch the replay within minutes, I think, of this going up. So please do that. Hit the like button and the subscribe button if you don't mind. And then we'll be here for, probably 3 reaction shows on Saturday. And we're looking forward to those. For Jay Greeson, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16 presented by FanDuel.